Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the MSC Magnifica. I sailed her from May 20th, 2024 to May 24th, 2024 on a 4-night, 4-day cruise to the Bahamas. We left and returned to Port Miami, and this was my first ever cruise. This was a totally solo cruise for me also, so it took a while for me to really get up the courage to do it, and my first ever cruise happened at age 25, and all I can say is I wish I started cruising earlier. There were some highlights I'll share with you in this review, and there are lots of negatives I'm going to share with you in this review. I learned on my first cruise that I love cruising, and I learned a lot of things about MSC also. I'll give you my recommendation on whether I think you should sail the MSC Magnifica or MSC at all. And if you are booked on the Magnifica, I will give you advice on what to do and what not to do on your upcoming trip. And let's get started. So let's first talk about the food. I have a full review video of the food right down here, so I'm only gonna touch on it for a second. The pizza was just okay. Everyone raves about the pizza online. It was kind of just average oven-fired pizza. The thing was, the pizza was by far the best food on the ship, so I think everyone kind of skews their opinion because that's what they remember as being really the only good thing to eat on the ship. The soft serve was actually probably the best thing to eat besides what I just said, but the soft serve was only available in the buffet from noon to 5 p.m. So that's really inconvenient and really just cheap in my opinion. I paid for the gelato. Everyone said the gelato by the pool deck was really good, but it wasn't good at all. I thought it was like really gross. It just tasted like frozen milk to me. So some entrees in the main dining room were good, but some were bad. It was really hit and miss. Like the red snapper was great, but the salmon looked good, but it was really flavorless. Some people though had lamb chop, and they served full real lamb chops on the bone for every single person that ordered it, and they said it was phenomenal. The buffet was a consistent miss though. Pretty much everything I got was lukewarm, really tasted gelatinous, and you know, they really had trouble keeping up with demand. There were no hand washing stations, which I found disgusting. Overall, the buffet was unacceptable quality to me. There was also a putrid smell coming from all the drink machines in the buffet. I do have to say that the service in the buffet and the main dining room was impeccable. Overall, I have to give the food a 1.5 out of 5. Let's talk about my cabin. So I had a deluxe balcony cabin, and I'm really glad I got this. So I got the Fantastica package, which means I got to pick where my room was. I also got free delivery, although I never utilized the free delivery. It was actually really frustrating because I really wanted to get breakfast in one morning, but I never realized that you had to hang this sign up on the door the night before, and otherwise I just couldn't get my continental breakfast for free in the morning, which that was really sad to me because this was an included perk in the cruise. So my deluxe balcony cabin was only a $20 upgrade, but it was very spacious, so it was definitely worth it on this cruise. It was a very, very clean. There were lots of mirrors. It was very easy to see myself when getting ready. The veranda was huge, beautiful view. There were 2 American outlets and 2 European outlets, and they were all in the same space, and they were not near the bed. There were no USB ports by the bed. Fortunately, I have 6-foot cords for all my devices, so that helped. But if you don't have something like that, you will be out of luck. So I did have an issue with my view overall. I'll insert a picture here. But I would call this view obstructed based on how I've seen other lines sell their balcony cabins. I do not believe that this is an unobstructed view, and I bought this balcony cabin as unobstructed. So I don't know. I was a little upset when I first came into my cabin and saw this, but sound off in the comments. This was my first cruise, so maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm just being too picky. But I would call this an obstructed cabin, so let me know what you think though, because really I'm a new cruiser and I need seasoned cruisers' advice. You know, if you can't really see the bottom of the ocean, I would call that obstructed. Like you shouldn't see a lifeboat from your balcony, I think. Another positive from the cabin was there was really no noise at all heard. You know, you could sometimes hear things in the hallway infrequently, but I think that's impossible to cover up. I never heard neighbors above me, below me, or to the side. And it was great. I think they did a great job soundproofing this room. Overall, I give this a 4.5 out of 5. I'm only taking off half a point because of the obstructed view issue. So our itinerary was Nassau and Freeport. Now, I actually really liked Nassau. I think our itinerary as a whole If you would put that on Reddit or Google, everyone would say, do not go on that cruise. That's a horrible itinerary. I really enjoyed Nassau as a lover of history. I think there were so many amazing museums. I did the Queen's Steps. I did Fort Finn Castle by the Queen's Steps. I just did a lot of walking around. It was a lot of fun. I love history. I'm not as much into the whole Caribbean getaway vibe. So if you're more of the former and not the latter, I think you will love Nassau truly. Now, I have a whole review video on Freeport linked here, but I really didn't like Freeport. I did do an on-island excursion to Taino Beach. I did not do this through the ship, and really it just meant finding a random taxi group to go with, but Taino Beach was not worth it. It just wasn't worth it. I would not ever do another itinerary with Freeport, and if I do end up doing one, I would just stay on the ship. There was nothing to do near the ship where the ship docks, and anything that there is to do on the island that's far away is not worth the drive or the money. The Magnifica's itineraries are very similar to the one that I sailed, although they do some Key West and some Cozumel and some Honduras ones as well. I'm gonna give the itinerary a 2 out of 5. So for excursions, I actually only booked one through the ship, and that was actually an on-ship excursion. So I did the behind-the-scenes tour featuring the bridge and the engine control room. So there is another one where you can do the kitchen and the galley, but I chose not to do that one. So that was really fun. They did wand us down. There was a lot of proprietary technology in the engine room that they did not want get leaking, which I can understand. But it was overall amazing. I would highly recommend. It was only $60. It was a lot of fun. It fills up fast too. So that was totally worth it. Big issue though, that was on my app prior to the cruise, and when I bought it also, it was advertised as being on a sea day, which made a ton of sense. It was on our only sea day. And it's like, duh, the on-ship excursion should be on a sea day. But then when I got there on the cruise, I immediately went to the excursions desk on the first day, because our first day on the cruise was the sea day, and I go, okay, where are we meeting and when? Tomorrow. And they go, oh, we don't have any info yet. And I go, okay. And they said, well, we'll drop something off tonight. We have to, because we'll know by tomorrow, or we'll know by tonight because it's happening tomorrow. Well, that night comes and I don't get any info. So I call down in the next morning and they say, okay, now it's happening on our Nassau day. And I'm like, okay, what time? And they say 2:15. And that's when we're in the middle of port at Nassau. So I had to come back from my Nassau trip early. And I just think that's unacceptable. I don't think you should be able to do that at all. And it just really rubbed me the wrong way that it was advertised as being during our at sea day, and it was not. I don't think that's fair at all, that you should be able to cut short our port day to do an on-ship excursion. And just the whole lack of communication. I mean, it took so long to get any communication at all. Like, I'm really minimizing the whole call down. It took way longer than that to get in touch with them. But I'm taking a whole point off for this category because of that. It was just a disaster. But overall, I actually thought that the offerings were pretty affordable. I didn't book any of them because Nassau and Freeport, I thought, didn't have many great options. But it seemed like they had, a good selection of offerings. I've looked at the offerings that Celebrity and Princess have had, and it seems like they have more diversity in their offerings, but much more expensive. So MSC offerings for excursions seem to rival the, third-party offerings. So yeah, pretty decent selection. I'm gonna have to give it a 3 out of 5 due to my poor communication experience, but highly recommend the behind the scenes tour if you can do it on a sea day. For activities, there was a really large variety of activities. I was really impressed with the activities offered on the MSC Magnifica. I think the cruise director and the activities director did a really great job coming up with things to do. Almost all of the activities were free. There was a huge variety and a huge selection starting at about 6 a.m. going till way past midnight, thinking about parties and stuff. Something I want to talk about was bingo. You can buy 1 bingo card for $20, 4 for $30, and I think 8 for $40. I got 4 for $30, and I hated the way they played bingo. I think it was such a scam. What happens is it's blackout bingo. You have to black out a whole card, and you can win $25K if you can black out your card in 45 calls. So the first person that does that, the entire game is over. And mind you, like 300 people, bought bingo cards. Now, If no one does that, it goes to 50 calls, and if someone blacks out their card, it's a $10,000 win. Then if no one does that, then the first 3 blackouts, those people win $500, and then the game's over. So it's like, 250 people spent an average of $30 on bingo, and they made a $20,000 profit. I've never seen bingo played that way. That seemed so unfair to me. Like, the whole point of bingo is not everyone, but half the people win a tiny prize to make it feel like you win something. It just seemed like, this is when I started to realize like MSC is kind of a scam company. Allegedly, don't sue me. There was lots of typical trivia. I played a lot of the trivia games. I love those games. There was also Pictionary, The Price is Right, all that stuff. And some of the employees who did that stuff were so funny and fun. It was all very low tech, honey. Let me say, it felt like we were on the floating Walmart of the seas. Carnival, I'm sure, was a step above us. We were on the no tech version of this, not even low tech. We were using pens and pencils and the projector from your 5th grade math class in 2005. There was no technology involved, honey. Another thing was, if there was like a free event and things were being given away, you had to be there on the dot. I heard stories of people going to like the free lanyard event and they missed it by like 30 seconds and they were turned away. You better be there. I liked the variety of like sunrise stretching on the Lido deck at like 7:30. I just thought stuff like that was really cool. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. Let's talk about the ship itself. I have some issues. This ship I think it first sailed in 2008 or 2009, originally in Europe, and then it moved over to the US pretty recently. So the biggest thing I noticed was there was a pretty prevalent sewage smell in the hallways, in my hallway. Now, I didn't smell the sewage in my room. I don't know if it would have smelled in other rooms because the smell in the hallway wasn't right outside my bedroom, or my cabin, I should say. That was disgusting. I was horrified. There was an AC problem throughout the ship as well. The AC did not really work in my room. It got it down to 74 at the coolest it could go. Other guests complained about being freezing on the Facebook group for this cruise. Now, throughout the ship, it really wouldn't get below 72, so that was a big problem too, but I can understand that more because lots of bodies and stuff throughout the ship. There was also a general damp, salty, kind of mucky vibe throughout the cruise ship. It just felt like we had been in the Caribbean a bit too long. It was pretty disgusting overall. So I would say this ship is in desperate need of a deep refurb. It's a bit sad that this is a relatively new cruise ship, and I know some of you might fight me saying this isn't new, but I would say 2009 is pretty new for a cruise ship. I don't consider 2009 to be old for a ship, but it does not seem like MSC is taking care of the ship well at all. I think it needs a very deep refurb. Now, I want to give tons of props to the staff. They were constantly cleaning. Nothing against the staff. This is a refurbishment problem that MSC needs to invest in. Because of that, I'm giving the ship a 1 out of 5, and I'll be weighting this category 1.5 times. So now let's talk about one of my favorite categories, the staff. So I had really amazing servers in the main dining room, and honestly, everyone I met called me ma'am, madame, everywhere I went, constantly wanted to know how they could make my day better. They treated me like royalty that I'm not, and they were more than kind. They clearly have received immaculate training. MSC did an amazing job there, and I was truly so impressed. Now, what made me sad was seeing other guests treat the staff poorly. That's never acceptable, and if you're watching this video, I beg you to treat the staff well and tip them well. Now, I'm giving this category a 5 out of 5, and due to how much the staff impressed me, I'll be weighting it with a 1.5. Technology is one of the most important things on cruises these days. I know I've heard that cruises of even 5 years ago, but 10, 15 years ago, cruises are where you would go to unwind and disconnect from the modern world and the internet and our cell phones, but that's not the same anymore. Cruise apps are more important than ever, and reliable cruise Wi-Fi is more important than ever. MSC delivered in some of these areas and some not so much. I purchased the basic non-streaming Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, it did not live up to the standard of being able to web browse properly. I was able to get 40 megabytes down and 2 megabytes up on the speed test app, but it was unable to do basic web page loading. Now, pre-trip, the app was horrible. I had to call MSC a few times to get some things figured out, like buying the Wi-Fi package. I was not confident or inspired by the app pre-trip. Once I connected to the cruise Wi-Fi, the app started to work, but I did have to log in a few times. It did not work seamlessly. And for example, I never figured out how to look at the main dining room's dinner that evening on the app, which is basic cruise ship app 101. This is 2024, you guys. MSC, you gotta do better. Due to that, I'm giving this a 1 out of 5. Let's talk about price. I bought this cruise a month before we sailed. So I bought it at the end of April and we sailed on May 20th, 2024. So I spent on my base fare plus taxes and fees $586. With the behind the scenes tour excursion and one Wi-Fi device package with only basic browsing, I paid $650 total. So what do you guys think? Was that fair or not so fair? I think that was fair for a balcony cabin all by myself. There was, I believe, 20% solo supplement on that cruise. So after all of the scores and the scores weightings are taken into account, I have to give this cruise a 2.5 out of 5. Overall, I liked some parts of it and I really didn't like other parts of it. I think for a cheap cruise, it was just okay. I think you can honestly get other cruises for just as cheap and you can pay a little bit more to get a much better option. I think at the height of cruising this summer with the historic prices we're seeing this summer, it's true that the MSC Magnifica was probably the only option for the price I was willing to pay. But I think going forward with the prices coming down a little and it'll keep coming down more, we are gonna see better options for the same price of $600-ish. Overall, I was happy to be introduced to cruising by the MSC Magnifica, but I would not sail the Magnifica again. I'm not saying if you have an upcoming cruise, you need to cancel it, but I hope that you will use my video as a guide of what to do and what to avoid. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you want to fight me, leave the address below. And please like, comment, and subscribe like usual. And thank you so much again for watching. Hope you have a great day.